The views and opinions expressed in the Golden Boot podcast are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Golden Boot podcast as a whole.
Y'all ready to get rolling? Quiet on the set. Hey, welcome back to another episode of HBCU Hour. It's your boy Pooh Bear. My man Aunt Petty Murphy is handling some family business at this moment, but we will be joined shortly by two great guests to talk about some story programs, man. So I've been kind of looking forward to this. I've enjoyed our team by team previews, but I've definitely been looking forward to this. I've been sneakily letting people know that, hey, cat's out the bag. Itabina got something to say. And then also one team who I think might do something in the West. We're gonna talk about them too. So we look forward to that, having this great conversation. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. But first, y'all know what we got to do, man. We got to give a shout out to our sponsors over at BetOnline. BetOnline.ag. We'll be back in 1 minute. BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your sports information, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds, lines, and player injury reports for this year's NBA and NHL playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters. This season, we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. We have everything from NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL to golf, tennis, UFC, and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games that you can play right from your home. Head on over to betonline.ag today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use the promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hey, welcome in first to HBCU Hour, our man from Mississippi Valley State University, Mr. We just gonna call him Big Patrick.
Oh, what's going on, man?
All right. Mississippi Valley State alum and support, and then also representing, and I think we have a little technical difficulty representing Grambling, Mr. Santoria Black. Man of many hats. I asked him what you want your title? He said, man, I'm a man of many hats. I said, okay, we're going to put it on there. Man of many hats. Sports analyst, TV broadcaster, general manager. So welcome, gentlemen, to HBCU Hour. Thank y'all for joining us and truly appreciate you having me.
Oh, no problem.
Patrick, you can hear me okay? I think Mr. Black is having issues. Let me see. Let's see. So I can hear Mr. Black. Mr. Black, can you talk? Can you hear us? No, I don't think he can hear us. All right, let me give me one. Y'all give us 1 second. Y'all know how it happens. You have a perfect plan, then Murphy's Law kicks in. All right. Let's see if it, Patrick, you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Black, can you hear me? Nope, I don't think he can hear me. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take him backstage. Okay, I'll take him take him backstage and see if we can work that out. Okay. All right, man. Let's get started, man. Mr. Patrick, man. We already had. We've been looking, like I said, been looking forward to this. Says good evening, HBCU family. Yeah, he just said the same thing, Mr. Black. We can see you but can't hear you. He wasn't talking, but we can hear his background. But man, let's talk first, man. Let's do this. I want to know, man. I can't. We talked a little bit before the show. I think the secret is out, man. But let's talk about Mississippi Valley, man. This history of recent. You guys seem to sneak up on a team or two every year and catch somebody slipping. But it's never you guys never really string together 2 or 3 wins and stuff. How do you feel about or what is the outlook of the team right now?
From the Valley standpoint, from a fan standpoint, it is cautious optimism because, like I say, everybody sees the recruiting, everybody gets hopeful, but then the Valley, the normal Valley fan things kicks in, and everybody waits for that bad thing to happen. So it's just, so it's just gonna be like cautiously optimistic. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Let's see how the team looks from like the first couple of games, and then go from there.
Right. Y'all got a story history, man. Some great players coming through. Everybody, of course, you know what I'm saying, Jerry Rice, Willie Toden, both names are on your stadium. But what are some other guys that people just seem to gloss over? Because there are some names, you know what I'm saying, there, but what are some other names that seem to just gloss over? People just seem to gloss over and don't give Valley the respect.
Oh, it's like when you talking about SWAC, people in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, everybody knows Jerry Rice, but people kind of forget that Deacon Jones is a Valley alum as well. He went to Mississippi Vocational College, which of course became Mississippi Valley. And so how many schools can say they got arguably 2 of the top 25 players to ever play in the NFL?
Right.
Yeah. Then we also got like Ed Lambro played 13 years in the NFL. He at Washington, he played with Earl Campbell. He played 11 years, made a few Pro Bowls. So I mean,
I'm sorry. What was that last name?
Ted Washington.
Ted Washington. Okay.
Yeah. His son played for the Patriots. Was when they went on the championship run. Sam Washington, not Sam. Oh, Ted Washington Jr. Yeah, played for the Patriots. That's his father.
Okay. You slipped and said Sam Washington, but that's another alum.
Yeah.
2-time Celebration Bowl champion.
Yeah. Yes, Valley done had over 20 people playing in the NFL. So I mean, people look at the recent dry spell, but they kind of forget, that first 55, 60 years, we was steady putting people in the NFL. So, I mean, hopefully we can get back to that soon. So, yeah, but we just got to remind people, that's how come, that's my part of my job or whatever, to just kind of remind people, we got a football history, you know what I'm saying? Of course, everybody knows about Rice and Tyner or whatever, but it put people in the NFL for a consistent 30, 40 years, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Coach Dancy, just, he left to go to Colorado with Coach Prime. But Dancy had something going. Felt like he was building a nice little program. Now you come in with Coach Wade, and Coach Wade's season hadn't started yet. I do want to start there. But when you look at the recruiting class he's putting together, you've got to, it's got to give you some optimism. It's got to, make you, scratch your head and say, what Valley doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think people kind of took notice when at signing class, the spring signing class,
Right.
took note. We got like what is it, 3 stars signed straight out of high school. The running back out of Memphis. He had a lot of FBS offers, including Memphis. Then got the one out of Texas, Lacey. He had offers from like TCU and places like that. So I mean, that that recruiting class kind of put people on notice. Then you put the social media team. Yep, as I said, we done had put the social media team, and they was out there just putting it out there, and everybody like, oh, okay, I see what Valley got going on or whatever. And then that's at the transfer portal. Everybody feast off of or whatever, but Valley really doesn't seem to like took it to another level as far as getting that top level talent and convincing them to come to Ed Avena and be part of something special.
Right. Mr. Black, can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can. Glad.
For some reason, I do this 1,000 times, and all of a sudden today is one of those days it doesn't want to work.
Yeah, we literally just said that. Hey, first off, I know you missed the introduction. I was telling everybody jokingly, because when I was telling you, I said, "Well, you want your title to be?" Say, "Man, I'm a man of many hats." So that's exactly what I put, "Man of many hats," and I put some of those things down. But glad to have you on. Really do appreciate having you on. I know you couldn't hear, but like I said, it's two teams that one I think is a budding program. I say a budding program. It's not a new program, but I think it's a program that's growing and building something special in Valley, and a team I think might shock some people. It could possibly come out the West in Grambling. So with that said, can you tell us a little bit about some of those hats that you wear? You know what I'm saying, especially for Grambling.
Well, I wear quite a few, not as many for Grambling as much as I used to, and that's just because of the fact that I'm the adjunct professor now, as I'm a general manager at 4 radio stations in Ruston. But I'm still over the radio network there, and still help out with a couple classes every semester, and help out where the president and athletic director need me from time to time. So do that, plus do television for ESPN and the SWAC, and then do a gospel radio show every weekend. So I stay busy.
All right. It sounds like it. I guess we'll start here as far as getting into football talk. I got a question. I'm gonna ask here. I'm gonna ask Coach Hue Jackson when I see him at SWAT Media Day. When they did the recruiting pictures and they had the cars on the field and stuff. I got a question because nobody ever asked me who put the belt on the car. That's what we're trying to figure out. Who put that belt on the car and had it hooked on the emblem?
I can't even answer. I have no idea.
I gotta find out who put that belt on the car. But no, seriously, Hue Jackson. It seems as though, although this is his second year, a lot of people are trying to put him on the hot seat.
Well, look, this is year 2. Year 1 is always difficult. I think one of the things that people tend to get impatient with is the fact that, you want instant success. And we understand that. Everybody wants to get things done right away. There's 2 things, though, that I think really hamper college football, and namely, when you talk about FCS and HBCU football. One is the transfer portal, because as you get players from the portal, people are going into the portal. And I think the second thing is these NIL deals. When you're talking about these NIL deals and stuff like that, people are leaving because of money. I got fussed at by a couple of people with the NC2A because I called it free agency, but that's exactly what it is. Right. And so I think if you tell the truth and shame the devil, you can move along the way you need to. But that's what I think the real problem is. You got a lot of players who have decided, hey, I want to try this team out, and I think I can play better here or go here. I think I should get more playing time and, all of that. And so, that can be a little difficult for coaches because, now retention is no longer a constant. Everybody says, well, what about APR? What about APR? It needs to be abolished because you can't control retention.
It's funny you say that. We actually talked about APR last week. No, I'm sorry, not last week, on Monday, about kind of the same issue, how teams are APRs are basically being killed by the portal, the transfer portal, and players go in the portal and some come out, but it seems more like a black hole.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is. And one of the things that I think is something that a lot of folks really have to understand about the portal is about 40 to 48% or 50% of the kids who enter the portal, they stay there. They don't get picked up by kids. They're by other schools. And so I think a lot of these student athletes are going into the portal misguided, thinking that, hey, I'm just going to go in and try out. And for people who think that they're being recruited before they go into the portal, they're sadly mistaken. Kids are being recruited before they even get into the portal. Some of them even know what teams they're going to go to. If that's not the case, how did Deion's son get Colorado that fast before the portal even opened up? Because that's the way recruiting goes right now. And that happens with Alabama, California. It happens with Wisconsin. It happens with every school in the country. So don't be misguided thinking that, there aren't teams that are already recruiting kids before they go there. The other thing is that if you're not a kid that is really being looked at, and you're in a month in the portal and you still haven't been looked at, chances are you may not get picked up right away, or you're going to go somewhere that you don't really like. And then you get mad at the coaches when you go back and say, coach, I want to come back. And the coach says no. Well, what is he supposed to do at that point, or she? So I think that the portal is one of those things where it's got to be more legislation behind that. And, quite frankly, it does hurt HBCUs quite a bit. It helps, but it also hurts you as well.
Right. Patrick, let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, going into the season. When you look back on last season, like I said, you're starting to build things up. So you've got something to build on. What are some areas that you feel like Valley needs to improve in, possibly taking advantage of that portal? But what are some areas you feel like Valley need to prove on, just to not necessarily win the SWAC, but to get better?
Oh, last year was a perfect case of that. Offensive line, like that's with every SWAC school, but especially with Valley. When in our second game we lost Rodney Luckett. He's potentially could be an NFL draft pick. You know what I'm saying? Lost him for the season, and once he got injured, people didn't realize by the time we got past Delta State, like almost the whole starting line was injured. You know what I'm saying? So definitely definitely helped as far as offensive line, and then of course, believe it or not, quarterback. When I say quarterback, Jamari Jones, who's coming back, for his senior season or whatever, he was actually in the transfer portal before Dancy left, and then when Wade got hired, they convinced him to stay. You know what I'm saying? So he's probably going to be the starting quarterback going into the season. Going to get pushed by the New Mexico State transfer, but them definitely like the two major areas that Valley had to get some depth in, because you got Jones, Maldonado, and then you got the two freshmen that signed in February.
Man, I'm glad you brought up quarterbacks, Mr. Black.
Yes.
Let's talk about Grambling. We know Miles Crawley came in. You had who was there? Calvez.
Mm-hmm.
That was there, and then I think you I forget who else you brought in. But what is the quarterback room looking like as far as what's the feel of the quarterback room? Is it a clear-cut leader, or is it still trying to figure things out?
Well, if I know Coach Jackson, one of the things he's not going to do is say, hey, this is the guy that we're going to start with right away. You still haven't gone through fall camp yet. You're just going through summer workouts. You got SWAC Media Day next week.
Right.
If I had to take a guess, I'd say Miles Crawley would be the front runner. Transfer from Alabama State. I think he's got the experience. He understands his conference. He's played at the SWAC level, so he understands that. One of the problems that you do have with some of the guys who have transferred in is that understanding the system. And some of those guys, you see the big schools behind their name, but they really didn't play that much when they were at that school. They had a lot of potential when they came into that position, but when they come to a Grambling or a Southern or a Valley, whatever the case is, they really haven't played a lot. And so it's getting to understand the system that you're playing in. I think that's the first thing. So I think Crawley, because he had the experience under his belt and because of the fact that, quite frankly, I think that he is that guy that I think that can really command the offense that Coach Jackson has. I think he could be the front runner. The other side of that is, and it's a great story. His dad is a Gramblinite, and he went to Grambling State University. His dad also was a very good singer. Was a part of a group called Nouvelle back in the '90s, and so there's some history there at Grambling with his family. So I think this is a great homecoming for Miles. That he was lived in Atlanta for a long time, and his dad. I talked to him, and he said he's really happy to see his son come to Grambling State University. The situation, I think, was at the right moment. And Coach Jackson said, hey, I'm giving you an opportunity. And that's what Coach tells all his quarterbacks. We're going to give you an opportunity. And after that, it's up to you to prove it.
Okay. Patrick, back to you about Valley. We've mentioned his name a few times, Coach Kendrick Wade. What kind of coach is he, and what should we, or what should fans expect about him?
Well, he's a complete opposite of Coach Dancy. Coach Dancy he's fiery, young, if he need to chew a referee out, he will. Coach Wade is more laid back, quiet. He'll get on you as well, but he's kind of okay. Let my assistants do the job, or whatever, and let them do the talking for me. And the team kind of like just taking on his demeanor as far as, a quiet confidence or whatever. That's Coach Wade in a nutshell.
Jamon, stop that. Behave. We got the chat getting going. Jamon is our Southern man. He says, I forgot, I had to go way back. He says Grambling is gonna get no love for him. And he asked, is y'all gonna win the Bayou Classic? We beat Grambling without a quarterback, and that only had 75 passing yards.
Hey, look, last year was a tough year, but here's the thing. Y'all, it's too early to be talking about your cousins this early, man. I mean, come on. It's a little too early. But don't worry, we're going to be coming. Don't worry about that. We're going to be coming. And don't worry, when we beat y'all this year, then the city will be cleared out for us when y'all go back home to Baton Rouge. So, we're good.
Tony Hull comes in. No disrespect to Coach Simon or Coach Jackson, whoever you want to say was calling the plays last year. No disrespect to either, but Tony Hull is an extreme upgrade at your play calling duties. What do you think about, or what's the thought of how he's going to call plays?
Well, look, you talk about some experience coming in. I mean, he was at ULM, and that's where I got familiar with him when he was with ULM. Very good understanding the running game, extremely good. And I think that, one of the things that I think helps Grambling out is not only do you get a good play caller, but you get somebody that's from New Orleans. That's an area that is extremely important for Grambling to recruit. You got a Southernite here on board. And if you think about all those schools in New Orleans, you think about the Edna Carrs and the Warren Easterns and all that kind of stuff. It is so important to have somebody that's from that area who has the big time experience to be able to come in and be able to give that offensive boost that Grambling is really in need of. And so I think that this is going to be a great year for him to come in here and put his own stamp on things. I think you'll see a definite difference in the passing game. That's something else that Grambling really wanted to address during recruiting, is getting more receivers who can hang on to the ball. You saw a little bit of that during the spring game. And so I think that bringing Tony Holland is going to bring a really fresh, a different look to the Grambling offense.
Right. Mr. D-Lob asked, well, my co-host, he's taking, he's not Graham fam, but he's close to it. But he's out taking care of a personal family business. So that's why he's not with us tonight. But we sending all our prayers and love to him. Now the spring game. And that's kind of the reason I brought up Coach Tony Hull. Grambling, I think the first few plays with each quarterback, they aired it out. And I don't know if that's kind of telling of kind of the mentality of, hey, we're going to throw this thing, but we, keep a balance, but we're going to air it out when we can. Or if that was just let's see what we can do right now.
Well, look, you were going to see something very vanilla in the spring game. You weren't going to see a ton of things that were going on there. You saw Miles Crawley play. You saw the gold team. I think Julian Calvez started for that team. He did pretty well. The black team, I think, they went up 21-7 midway through the first half. And, they pretty much did what they needed to do. Lyndon Rash, I think, is going to be one of those guys that is going to be very important to this team. But I think that one of the things you saw is that the receivers had a little bit more confidence. They were catching the ball a little bit more. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that we saw last year that I think really hampered Grambling, is that they were not as effective as Coach Jackson wanted them to be in catching the football. And when you start being one-dimensional and you start having to come out of the backfield and you can't go deep the way that you really want to, it really does limit your playbook. And so that's something that he said, you got to get guys that can hang on to the football. We have to have guys that are healthy and strong up front, that know the blocking schemes, that know how to do what they need to do. And again, the other side of that is, and Grambling, at times really had some great flashes in the running game. I think that wasn't really the real issue. It's being able to be as diverse as Coach Jackson wanted to be to really throw the defenses off.
Yeah. Speaking of the running game, you lost a huge contributor to your running game, who entered and Mr. Washington, who entered the NFL, I should say NBA, who entered the NFL draft. How's the running back room looking and will they be able to capitalize on that?
Oh man, look, that's probably one of the most talented rooms there. And so when you start talking about the running back room, they're going to have depth there. And you had some guys that left there too, that went into the portal. But you have a lot of talent in that running back room. And I think that that's probably going to be one of those areas that you're going to have to say, well, gosh, who do we go with this week? Because there is so much depth there. I don't think that's really going to be your issue. It's finding that guy who's going to step up at wide receiver that's going to be your real issue. I think that's going to be the main thing on offense, is who's going to step up here in the wide receiver room. And once you find that, I think that you'll have a completely different offense. And I think that's where Tony Hull comes in. And, look, the other thing is you got a really good offensive line coach. One of the things that he talked about this year is really a lot of technique things in protecting the quarterback, sustaining blocks, getting better at the footwork, at handwork, all of the things that you do during the offseason, working with your feet and your hands and your speed and your agility, all of those things. And in some cases, some guys, hey, you got to drop a few pounds just to make sure you can move better. And so those are some things that I think that through their sports, their conditioning efforts that they've had this summer, as well as what they're getting ready to go through in the fall, it's going to be tough. Now, it's going to be a very competitive fall. And, for people who say, oh, there's no question, he's just going to be the guy. If somebody steps up and takes their spot, Coach Jackson's going to notice that.
Patrick, I didn't get to see much or hear much about Valley's spring game. Can you tell us about that and what that kind of looked like? Again, spring games, or as Mr. Black already said,
vanilla.
You know what I'm saying? But you can still get a feel of how, how the team looks. So how did the team look during the spring?
Okay, from what was shown in the spring, it definitely seemed like they want to run more up tempo. And then you got Jones who can sling it, but he wasn't allowed to last year. So Johnson bringing in that up tempo offense and wants to throw it around, but at the same time you got the running back coach who wants to pound and run the ball, and he done stacked through. I said you got 3 signees this spring, plus you got people don't realize we had Wilson who transferred in from South Alabama. He was on the roster last year, but didn't play that much. And then Bant finally healthy. He's a star over in Amanda Elza in Greenwood. So you got experience coming back in the running back room and somebody that could lead those talented freshmen. So as far as your offense, they definitely want to run something. They definitely want to run something more up tempo, but at the same time want to pound the ball.
Okay. My man, MVSU, I got time, said Lyndon Rash, wide receiver. He's a baller. And said Jared Wilson, running back. So
yeah.
Lyndon Rash is for Grambling. I'm sorry, wide receiver at Grambling. But he said Jared Wilson is the running back that you're talking about at Valley.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Lyndon Rash is a name that I've heard a lot for Grambling, who could definitely have a big season. I want to ask about defense now. Grambling's defense wasn't, as far as I know, it wasn't that bad last year. They did really well. Showed up in I guess you could say showed out in a few games. But what's the defense kind of looking like?
Well, here's the main thing. When you start looking at your defense, the reason why you had, especially as you got late in the games, the reason you had problems is because you couldn't get the defense off the field. Offensively, that, and Coach Jackson said a lot of 3-and-outs that you had last year, couldn't move the ball. So your defense would make some really good plays and then get the ball back to the offense, and then the offense could not move, especially if they move the ball inside the 20-yard line. That's where they seem to have problems because, again, when you can't pass the ball and you don't really have the game that you really want to, you become really one-dimensional. And so I think that's one of the things that Coach Jackson really spoke about during the coaches show last year is if you can't get the defense off the field, you're going to wear them down. Eventually they're going to make mistakes. They're going to get tired. So that's the thing. Look at some of the time of possessions when you look at some of these defensive plays. And then, some of the offenses that you had last year, they're, extremely quick getting in and off the field. They would score. They would be able to get in, get out. And then all of a sudden, here comes the defense once again, having to come back out onto the field. I think that when you take a look at that Bethune-Cookman game, how that game shaped out. This game was relatively close at one point in time. And then all of a sudden, here comes the defense having to come back out after a turnover or after giving up, bad field position. And so that really was, and for a while they were in that Jackson game. They weren't completely shut out of this game early. But then, here comes that offense. They're on the field. They're passing the ball. The defense continues to be on the field. Offense can't move the ball, giving it back to Jackson. So, after that win, I think that we had against Northwestern State really started a lot of problems with Bethune. They put up 30-plus points. Prairie View put up 30-plus points. A&M put up 30-plus points. And then a close game with FAMU. That was a really close game. But, again, you couldn't score late. That was the biggest problem is you had the ball, you got the turnover that you needed, and they couldn't score late. So, that was a 2016 game. Now, luckily they were able to beat Alcorn. I think that was a big confidence booster for them. They would beat Arkansas Pine Bluff, who early in the season was pretty good. But then you turn around and Texas Southern just blew you out, and then the loss to Southern. So I think that a lot of this on defense is going to be getting off the field. I think if they can do that, their talent will show. They did some recruiting up front because they got to put pressure on the football in this conference. So that's one of the things that they said is you got to get some pressure up front and those linebackers. So that front seven they paid particular close attention to during the camp.
Yeah. All right, Patrick. I'm looking back, kind of recapping last year. Y'all ended pretty strong. You had the big upset over Alabama A&M, and then you finished the season with a huge 27-7 win over Prairie View. I guess my question is, building off of that, what is kind of the and I'm trying not to ask the same question over and over. Let me come back to that thought. I'll come back to that thought.
Okay.
Because I'm trying not to ask the same question over and over. And hey, what's the outlook on this season? What's the outlook? Because again, I fit in, and then I don't want to put you in a position to say, hey, well, you know what? You're not a coach. I can put you in that position. Let me ask you this. Who y'all gonna catch slipping this year?
Oh. I'm trying to see who will we play at home. FAMU, PB, Jackson State, and I think Alabama State. I think that's who we got at home.
Yep.
Yeah, Alabama State. Yeah. I think we're gonna. Like I said, we beat Alabama State the previous year. So, but it's like Black said, Dallas defense was played pretty well. Like we played well against Tarleton State to start off the season last year, but every time you look around, 3-and-out, 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 and that wears your defense out. We played Jackson State well for a half, but our offense just couldn't get it going, and they just opened up in the second half against us. So by the time we finally got healthy last year, as far as offensive line started to gel a little bit, and then defense, that's when we started to, show some talent or whatever. But as far as defense this year, like that's where we lost a lot of our talent to the transfer portal.
Was the defensive
So it's going to be I don't, Coach Thompson came from Delta State, so we don't know. Like it's going to be what is it? We don't know what type of defense he's going to throw out there. So it's going to be kind of like a work in progress as far as giving that defense time to gel. So yeah.
Well, I think there's two players from Grambling that you got to look out for, and Marquise Harris is one of them. He originally committed to Arkansas State, and I think it was originally announced his commitment to Grambling, and then he went to Arkansas State, and then I know he's back at Grambling. So Marquise Harris is a great wide receiver who's got potential, some great potential, great upside to him. So I think that he's one of those guys on the offensive side. And I think on the other side, the 4-star receiver from linebacker from Memphis, Andrew Jones, he's going to be the other guy that I think is really going to make some noise. Remember, I told you that Coach Jackson really wants to shore up that front seven. And Andrew Jones got a lot of speed. He knows exactly where he's got good football IQ. So I think he's going to be one of those guys to look out for that could probably start on this team. But you guys just mentioned about the scheduling, and that's really something that it is very difficult really to determine just how good our teams could be this year based on what we see, in some of the camps and things. There's a lot of potential out there in the field. But, I'll just take Grambling's schedule to start. You start against Hampton in a bowl game or in a classic game. Mm-hmm. Then you go to LSU. The goal there, and you can ask Coach Jackson, don't get anybody hurt at the LSU game.
Bingo.
That's going to be a big one. Obviously everybody's looking forward to it. It's Grambling Southern was there last year. Grambling there this year. I think there's only one more school in the state from an FBS or FCS level that hasn't played, and that was Nichols because they had a game canceled in 2020 because of COVID. And then Grambling comes home for 2 games. They get Florida Memorial, which will be a good tune-up game for conference play when they get ready to play Texas Southern in the month against Prairie View. Texas Southern cleaned the floor up with them last year, and so did Prairie View. And I'm going to tell you the team really that a lot of people really need to pay attention to in the West that you don't hear as much about at times. Prairie View is going to be a team that really going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. They've got a lot of great talent on that team. And when you start taking a look at what they're starting to bring in, man, that's going to be a team to watch. It's not how they start that Prairie View's had the problem with, as you see from last year. It's how they finish. That's going to be the big thing, is how they finish is going to really determine what they do.
Yeah, I'm looking at, because it's funny you say that. We've talked to some of our Hampton friends, and they think they can get y'all this year. They're saying that Grambling is because of history, that they've been able to beat Grambling before. Anytime they've played Grambling, they've gone on to the win the conference or something like that. It was, but they got confidence saying that they could beat y'all.
Well, it's great to have hopes and dreams. It's always good to have hopes and dreams. It wasn't always like that for Hampton. I remember the year that we played, 1993. I want to say we played in the Meadowlands. All they had was hopes and dreams. But look, Hampton also played Grambling, in the Meadowlands, but they haven't played Grambling in a long time. Mm-hmm. They were able to dominate Grambling. Last few times going up there, that was Coach Rob's last year, and I remember Coach Williams going up there, I think his first year. And so we haven't seen Hampton in a good little while. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game really has evolved and how these teams really look coming into the year. And here's the other thing too that I think you have to start looking at. When you take a look at teams from the East against teams from the South, they recruit very differently. If you notice, FAMU had to change their recruiting up just a little bit to really match what the size and the strength was down in the conference, because out there you got bigger guys. Why? Because you played in colder temperatures. You played the Delaware States and the Norfolks and stuff like that, where you had colder temperatures in the East than you did in the South. In the South, you got a lot more speed. Hampton is almost the same way. Under Joe Taylor, they had some really good athletes. And I think that one of the things that they were able to do is they were able to match the speed and some of the agility that Grambling had. But we'll see what happens this year. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about it, because this came up when we talked to our Alabama State friends. Y'all play Alabama State this year, which would have been a home game for you guys, if I'm not mistaken. but it's in Mobile. Does something like that? I mean, it's great to have classics. It's great to play in those games, but that home field advantage, does that hurt to play these classics and miss out on that home field advantage?
I think it's a yes or no. I think from a yes standpoint, obviously, when you don't have to travel and you can just stay at home, go in your own bed, relatively, it's always great. It's always great for your fans coming in. But the Alabama State Grambling game, unless it's a homecoming game, has a history of not having great crowds from the Alabama State side. And so, you think about going to Mobile, it does help your recruiting base. You start looking at the legendary stadium there, and one of the names were Ernie Ladd. I was there last year when Alabama State played Jackson State. It is right in the neighborhood. I'm telling you, if you don't get there early enough, you will have a whole lot of problems parking because it's like in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah, trust me. I'm from Mobile. I know. Yeah, I know that one.
So you can stop at the corner store in traffic on the way going down there because there's a whole lot of traffic going down.
Right.
But I think this is a good opportunity for them because you can expand your recruiting base, and that's something that Grambling always wants to do. And Coach Rob used to always tell his players when they got recruited, you come to Grambling, you see the world. And I think that fans who do say, and this is with whatever school you're at, fans who say we need to see more home games, well, you need to see more fans because classics bring checks. And when you start talking about why do you play here, why do you play there, why do you play this team? Hey, football is a cash cow. Football and men's basketball. And when you start talking about budgets, this is how you pay for volleyball in a lot of cases, and softball and track. So you want more home games, have more fans at home games. So that's the way that goes. So classics are traditional. I think it's great. I hope to see a great crowd there in Mobile for Grambling and Alabama State.
Patrick, y'all start off in Chicago against Central State. Then y'all play. Then you got a game, of course, against Delta State. Then you got North Carolina Central in the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis. If I'm not mistaken, the last time y'all played North Carolina Central, what happened?
Yeah, but they because of exits from the MEAC, they end up playing us for homecoming, and they thought they were gonna come down here and get an easy win or whatever, but they left with the L, you know what I'm saying? And that just, they've been waiting for a couple of years. They thought we were going to play them last year, but I knew whenever they got back on the schedule, it was going to be a return game. So I think, let's see, okay, we start off, like I said, in Chicago. That should be a win. And then Delta State, even though we go to them, that's going to pack out their game. If we can somehow start off 3-0, clip Central in Indianapolis, and that first home game against FAMU is going to be something, man. Because
listen, if two things, and because people have said if Hampton beats Grambling, SWAC will be on fire. You know what I'm saying? Everybody will go crazy. If Valley beats North Carolina Central again, that this whole MEAC versus SWAC that argument is gonna blow up.
Yeah, like what is it? People look at the Celebration Bowl and how Jackson State came up short, but in the past 3 or 4 years or whatever, the SWAC been pretty much done on the MEAC as far as head-to-head matchups is concerned. So if we go to Indianapolis and can flip them again, I think that'll put in as far as putting too much stock into the Celebration Bowl because teams that have over a month or so, whatever, 4 or 5 weeks to plan for a team or whatever. For a last place team to go and beat the defending HBCU national champions. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's gonna be some tearing going on if that happens.
Ooh-wee. Okay, Mr. Black. What game do you have circled on your calendar for Grambling?
Ooh, boy. Look, everybody talks about the LSU game, but again, that's a money game. We know what that is. And I think you have to do that. The obvious choice is always going to be Bayou Classic because of the history and all that. And it's the 50th anniversary. I think that's the a benchmark anniversary for that class. Honestly, I think that the game that really needs to be circled is that game September 30th against Prairie View A&M. That to me is going to be a real litmus test to see where we are in the West. I think you get Texas Southern at home, possibly win there. Last year they weren't successful, but you get that home game 2 in a row, Florida Memorial and Texas Southern. But that game on the 30th, you beat Prairie View, and I think you really got a shot of making some things happen. I think you got to be Texas Southern at home. Don't worry about LSU. Of course, you want to go in and try to win that game, but we all know what that's about. I think Prairie View is that game. I think that's going to be the test for me on a neutral field to see what this team is all about. And I think if they win that game, they got a real shot of competing for the SWAC West.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you the same thing, Pat. What game you got circled?
Believe it or not, it's Delta State. Yeah, they D2 or whatever, but people don't understand the.
I mean, that's a perennial playoff team, though.
Yeah, that's it. And they were actually worried about playing against Jones last year when they came to Valley or whatever. But for whatever reason, he didn't play until really the second half or whatever. By that time, we were down 25-3, and our offense just ain't made like that. If we go, I mean, we're gonna be Central State or whatever. As HBCU procrastinated, some called experts or whatever, that done pick Central State to beat Valley. Even with all the signees or whatever, they done pick Central State to beat Valley. If we don't beat them by at least 4 touchdowns or whatever, I'd be worried. It's Delta State that's the game that you'll know where we stand as far as, because they had some FBS transfers as well. D2s do get FBS transfers. People don't realize that or whatever, and that's how they was able to beat us and almost beat Jackson State the previous year. So that's the game that I'm looking forward to.
And look, I'm not gonna lie to you. That Delta State is always a team that if you ask a lot of FCS coaches, especially regionally, that is a team that a lot of coaches don't want to play because that's a strong team. If you go over there, they've got pretty good facilities for a team as well. So they
people don't like. I stay 20 minutes from Cleveland, and people don't realize how that baseball field. It'll blow a lot of smaller D1 schools out of the water, whatever, turf, scoreboard, everything. Well, they got some really good facilities over there.
Yeah, one of the guys I talk to all the time, and you probably know him, Lee Hall, who's been a part of Valley Brand for years. We started broadcasting. I started broadcasting in 94, 93, and I've known him since. And that's one of the things that he always talks about is everybody sleeps on schools like Delta State because they're D2 until they play them. Even in basketball and baseball, ask some of those D1 schools if they'll put Delta State on their schedule. The answer is no, because that is a team that can go in there and take you out 2 games out of a 3-game series because they do a great job of recruiting. They're probably one of those schools that, in football especially, they're not no slouch. So, yeah, that's a team that they've really done well with their athletic program. But, I'm looking forward to see what happens with Valley and North Carolina Central, too, because Central, I think, has got something to prove. I don't think Trey Oliver does not want to go into that game losing to Mississippi Valley. He's a guy who came to Grambling. He's a Rod Broadway coach, came up under Coach Broadway, him, Sam Washington, Sean, all these guys. So, he does not want to lose to Mississippi Valley, especially after coming off of HBCU championship.
Yeah, they've been had the game circled for a while as far as, getting back at Valley because they expect to come in and, spoil our homecoming in 2021. And yet Coach Dancy, just play hard. And even when we was down in the fourth quarter, they still believe that we can win. And we end up pulling out at the last second, literally the last second.
I'm sorry about that. I got hit up for my request for food. Sorry about that. And I was told I ain't sending no money. I ain't getting no food. So so sorry to put y'all on hold, viewers and guests, but I'm gonna make sure I eat.
Nourishment is the soul, man. You got to have some. Look, I understand about food. My thighs rub. You know what I'm saying? And if it get hot enough, it'll smell like a Sunday dinner up in here. So, I understand the importance of nourishment.
Yes, sir. All right. I want to move a little bit out of football, and talk about, I guess, the brands for each. Somebody brought it up earlier about the new shoes that Grambling got. It's been mixed reviews. Some of the Grambling folks, but I'm saying, this is nice. But a lot of folks, really weren't feeling the shoes. I don't know. I personally, I thought, anytime you can get anything, that's gonna start a conversation or whatever, is good. It's a good thing for me.
Yeah, and that's the way I feel. Look, you're talking about it. And guess what? Talking about it, that means it's on people's minds. That means it's going to trend. And not everybody's going to be able. They're $200. The way my bank account works right now, that's not going to happen right now. But, eventually I hope I can get some. But, the biggest thing about the brand is, and I want fans to understand what I'm talking about. It's great to have a brand. It's another thing when you understand the marketing behind your brand. The real value isn't just saying, hey, we're Grambling. That's not the real value. The real value is, and just listen to what I'm telling you, when you're going to those stadiums and you're filling up stands, that brings more value to your sponsors. That brings more attention to TV networks, i.e. Jackson State. The year before Deion got there, really wasn't that relevant. Not just when you're talking about in the SWAC, but in black college football, period. They weren't as relevant. Deion comes, look what happens when Coach Prime arrives. Everybody's talking about him. Like it or not, he made a lot of things relevant. And every team he played, he put on the national stage because guess what? Everybody wanted to see Coach Prime. He wasn't playing, but they wanted to see it. That's why they're on TV all the time. And that's why it helped the SWAC as a league because of what he did. So I think you got to ride the wave of that. TC is a great coach. He's a Jackson guy. I think that he's one of those guys that can really continue with this. Jackson State lost a lot of players to the portal, 10 to Colorado, several other places. So they got hit by the portal bug. But I think now what you're going to start seeing is a lot of eyes now are going to be put on some of the other coaches who have that NFL experience. Bubba McDowell, you got Coach Hue Jackson, you got Eddie Robinson. All these guys, they've got NFL experience. They understand what it takes to get to the next level. And I think that the storylines can be drawn out a little bit more because you don't have just that one focal point in Coach Prime.
Yeah. And it's funny, cause as we talk, I mentioned the shoes. Here we go. The shoes are nice but expensive. Jamon just don't like Southern man said, y'all need to give the band get a band some those nursing shoes, not it. And then guy staying hard and says, check Adidas website. Grambling new shoe is a bestseller. I received my pair today.
I'm trying to tell you, people are talking about it. And that's the thing is that, you got an HBCU brand out there on a national stage with Adidas. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to buy those shoes.
Yeah. Patrick, I asked earlier, previous show about Itabena. Where is Itabena and stuff? And they told me where it was and stuff. But it's kind of and no disrespect, but it's a kind of middle of nowhere. It's not really close to a lot of things, or a lot of big cities, as they say. What is the fan support like?
Being honest, if you come to football games and basketball games, you kind of know the Valley diehards. That's what they call it, the Valley diehards. Always buy the season tickets, always at the games cheering the loudest or whatever. It's the casual fans that we have to work on, and because we ain't been winning, other than Jackson State and Alcorn, you kind of taking your chance as far as football and basketball is concerned. So got to win in order to bring them back in. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? And I like Coach Dancy. Coach Dancy was really trying to do a lot to gain more support, man. He was really was very vocal with the administration about what needed to happen in order to help out, try to get things going on. But look, I talked to when I was growing up in the SWAC as a young broadcaster. There was a guy named Chuck Prophet. SID at Mississippi Valley. And one of the things that he told me about was Valley has to be able to market their brands and coaches. Take a look at Lafayette Strickland, who was a legendary coach at Grambling. He had some of the best players in the SWAC when it came to basketball. But guess what? You know what they talked about a lot with Lafayette Strickland? His suits. He would wear red, blue, purple. I mean, he had about 30 suits when he went to the SWAC tournament. He had one when he came to practice, one when he was just watching the games, and one when he came out to coach. And so, even though he had great players, you know, there was a guy named George Norris who I don't think got nearly the coverage that he needed, because he was one of the best jumpers I've ever seen in this conference. But you know, that's the thing, is that I think you have to look at all of the different coaches and what they can bring and what's different about them and their brains. And so, you know, and it's not just Valley. I mean, good for a long time, you know, Grambling was Grambling, but guess what? You know, a lot of people weren't talking about them because we weren't winning. You know what I'm saying? For a while. You know, here comes Coach Bobs. You're able to get a championship. Coach Broadway got a championship. Coach Williams got a championship. You know, look, Coach Jackson is in no different shape than when Coach Williams was when he first got here as well. I think Coach Williams went 5-6 and 3-8. Coach Jackson went 3-8. You know, it's hard when you start, but you got to put your program in place.
Trying to think. So, and what you're saying, very true. Basketball. I don't know the connection, and I've been trying to figure out. But Patrick, y'all picked up on the women's side a big name, and I can't think of her first name, what she goes by, but Ja Morant. Tania, there you go. Tania's Morant, Ja Morant's little sister. I'm scared to ask this. Is she a shooter like her brother? I probably should ask it like that. But no, you know what I'm saying? What kind of baller is she?
She is a gritty defense. She's somebody that if you put the ball in her hands, she would find a way to try to will you to a win. Like, she's a good all-around player. But let me go ahead and say this. People got to look at the signing class available. We got a whole new team. There's nobody from the team last year that is on the team this year. At best, you know, especially when we got 6 true freshmen coming in and those JUCO players that Coach Anderson signed. People need to temper their expectations as far as thinking she's going to come in and start, let alone, you know, she might not even dress out. I'm just my personal opinion. If she might not even dress out because of how, you know, deep the signing class is. So I was telling people to temper their expectations as far as, you know, thinking she's gonna come in and run the SWAC. She's just a freshman, so there's that.
I think that people made the same mistake when Shaquille O'Neal's son went to Texas Southern. They made the same mistake. People had so many expectations for Texas. I mean, look, Johnny Jones is a fabulous coach. Look what he did. I mean, Texas Southern was not really the team that you thought they were during the regular season, but they won in the tournament. And I think that's something that is so different. You know, I talked to one of the assistant coaches from Alabama State, Clayton, and he said it's a difference from winning in the regular season and winning in the SWAC tournament. And him and Coach Freeman Jackson talk all the time about, hey, they can have all the wins that they want to. If we get into the tournament, that's where the real money is made. And you saw what Texas Southern did. They were a low seed. They were able to win. So I think you're right. Patrick is right. Some people got to temper their expectations a little bit when you see some of the big names, because you put a lot of unnecessary and undue pressure on yourself and other people thinking that, oh, they're going to save this and they're going to do this. You know, that just doesn't happen all the time.
Completely agree. We have just hit the 1 hour mark. Let me ask this, Patrick. A successful season for Mississippi Valley State in football is blank.
Four wins would be satisfactory. 5 wins would be. I think 4 wins would be satisfactory, because I think people expect to beat Central State and Delta State. It's going to be where those other 2 wins are going to come from. People know that Valley's going to sneak up on somebody.
I'm gonna give you where is it? I'm looking at your schedule. I'm gonna give you UAPB.
Okay. I mean, it's not Jackson State Alcorn, but
Yeah.
it's something. It's
Right.
something. Yeah, I think we could. Yeah, I mean, we could. UAPB. Where's that fourth win? I think it's going to either be Alabama A&M or Alabama State. Those are for sure wins. And then, of course, never count out Jackson State. They come to Itabena. I mean, Valley always play them tough, when they come here. So I mean, it's always going to depend on how we look after game 2, and that should let us know where we will be at as far as expectations concerned.
All right. Is it true about the grass? Do y'all just let the grass grow a little bit taller just to help you out?
My God.
Because
Here's the thing about it. I think I can go ahead and let this out the bag a little bit. Like the grass that Alcorn uses, whatever, Valley's going to have that this year. And then after that, I mean, that's all I can say. After that, you have to keep your eyes open as far as what come in 2024.
Gotcha. Because every time anybody talk about Valley, that's the first thing they'll say. Y'all know they got that grass. That's the first thing everybody say. All right, Mr. Black, let me ask the same question. I'm gonna change it a little bit because we know what success is at Grambling. It's the championship. Hue Jackson quiets the crowd if
quiets the crowd in a negative or positive way?
Positive, because they still chirping negative, but say how can he win the crowd over?
Well, I think that you got Tony Hull as your co-offensive coordinator, Derek Dodge, who brings a wealth of experience as your safeties coach, Tyron Carrier, who will be your outside receivers coach this year. I think that you quiet the crowd if you. I don't think there's any question you got to beat Southern. I think that the 50th anniversary is going to be a benchmark for Grambling State University. I don't know if it's going to be enough just to say win 6 games. Is it a successful season from the standpoint of W's and L's? Yes, but I think can you win this division? Because I think it is wide open. This is not a division that is solely going to be dominated by one team or another coming in. So I think that the expectations are going to be extremely high. I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, can we win this division? And, and definitely beating Southern at the end of the year. So those are things that I think that short of the winning the division, you're going to have your naysayers and all this other kind of stuff. If you get to 8-3 or something like that, and you still may come up short, man, that's a heck of a season. But their expectation is to win this division. That's the expectation this year: to win the SWAC West, beat Southern, go into the Celebration Bowl, or go into the SWAC championship game, and try to host it and beat whoever's in the East. But I think that winning the division is something that is on the board this year.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to first say on behalf of myself and my co-host, we truly appreciate y'all coming on, shed some light on your both your fine institutions. Before we close out, we always like to give our guests a chance to plug anything, saying any last shots. I know that y'all don't necessarily, because usually we have other members of media on, podcasts or whatever on. But if you want to just, any organizations you want to shout out, we'll give y'all that opportunity. Mr. Patrick, again, thank you for coming. I know it was a little bit more last minute. And thank you for, inconveniencing yourself to do this for us. Truly appreciate it. But I'll go ahead. We'll start with you. Go ahead, sir.
I don't have anything really to say. All I got to say is don't sleep on Valley, this year. Don't sleep on Valley football. You're going to get Coach Wade's going to have that team playing hard for 60 minutes.
All right. And I completely agree. I've been saying it. I don't know which one of them games gonna win me some money, but one of them games gonna win me some money, and I appreciate you, Patrick.
No problem.
And Coach Wade. Mr. Black.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, if I can get back to Itabena, there's a place that's not too far from the stadium that has some great chicken. I got to go back there. But look, the couple of things. First of all, I think for any HBCU fan, if you are a fan, alumni of a school, the biggest way, people say, how do we get more money into our institution? How do we help our athletic department more? It's buying season tickets. It's buying Bayou Classic tickets. It's buying tickets to the Jackson and Alcorn game or to the Valley games. Buy tickets and go to the games. You want more home games? You have to show up at home. The other thing I just want to say is, we talk all the time about the great things that are going on with, all of our great teams and all our coaches and things like that. I just want to shed some light. We have some amazing broadcasters in this conference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about the people who are on the grind and, our unsung heroes at times, the broadcasters in this conference are top notch, and I'd put them against, almost anybody in this country because, we work hard, we do a lot of great things. So support the radio broadcasts, support these folks who are online, and do those things because guess what? The more that you support, the more that the businesses in those areas support, the better that these broadcasts can be. So support the broadcasters, and I do want to invite people to listen to our show because every week on my show, The Weekend Praise Party, we feature HBCU bands. Every single week we play a lot of the gospel songs that these bands play. So you can go on Facebook and on Instagram at Weekend Praise Party, and you can go on Twitter at Weekend Praise, and you can listen to the show. And we feature bands all the time, from Miles to Valley to one of the most requested songs is Devil's Gun by Valley. Can you believe that? That's one of the most requested songs that we get sometimes. So yeah, just make sure that you listen to the show, and we feature bands. We talk to presidents all the time because we love featuring HBCUs. We'll be doing more of that in the fall because it's so important that we put and shed light on our great institutions.
All right. Hey, thank you so much. Again, thank y'all so much. I do want to address a comment. Mr. Guy says, my first time watching this was a very professional show with much knowledge. Thank you, sir. I just want to let you know that we do act a fool a lot on here. I just ain't got my co-host to do it with me. But we do act the fool a lot. But no, seriously, thank you for the comment. If y'all have enjoyed the show, like it, please do us a favor. Subscribe, share it, tell a friend. We try to, spread the word, the good word about HBCUs, and we try not to do the whole gossip thing, but we will be a little messy. So with that being said, we'll be back Monday night, the day before the SWAC Media Day. We'll be talking about Prairie View and Texas Southern. And then we'll do a couple of recordings at SWAC Media Day, talking with players and coaches. We may even go a little live. But that's all we have for tonight. Want to thank our guests again for coming through. Thank everybody for watching. And like that, we're out. This show was presented by betonline.ag.
Bring me my money.